When shadows fall and spirits howl, zombies stalk and madmen prowl, monsters lurk and victims shiver. Thrills and chills they will deliver. Arise from your graves and get in the mood. It's time to join the Spooky Dudes.
Boom. After 18 episodes, we're on 19. After several episodes, I finally got the timing of turning that screen off correct. Took forever. Hi guys, we're back. Episode 19, Spooky Dudes Live, I guess is what we're going to go with. The name of it, I don't know. But in just like every other week, bringing to you someone cool within the horror community to talk to. We've now had a playwright. We've had authors. We've had plenty of indie filmmakers, and now we have we did have one podcaster. So you and I are going to talk way too long. That's what's going to happen because podcasters can't keep their mouths closed very long. But DeadAliveDana's here. How's it going, Dana?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining in. My sister, who I love, she's a great person. She's the spooky sister, Casey, and she's like, you know what, Spooky Dudes is really turning into a sausage fest. And I said, it's funny you should mention that because I literally think the next 3 episodes are all female guests.
Oh, nice.
So it just happened that way. So thank you for calling me out on it right before I fixed it. Appreciate that. But it's just how it worked. I mean, I sent out a bunch of people like, here's some calendar dates. I don't know. Everybody had the same thought in mind, I guess, or whatever. But still, I'm excited. I've known Dana for, I don't know, a couple years, I guess, through Instagram, just chatting back and forth and liking each other's posts and stuff like that. But we've never got a chance to sit down and chat about movies. So I thought, why not now? Dana, so the podcast is called The Horror Files. I was actually listening to your episode about vampire movies today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big Nicolas Cage fan.
Yes.
And so you brought him up. And so it made my soul happier just to hear about Nicolas Cage.
Yes. Yeah, Vampire's Kiss. It's an unforgettable one.
It's a treasure. I mean, it's a very unique film. Well, how long's the podcast been going?
Well, I started it probably predictably, as a lot of people started doing podcasts during the pandemic, and right at the beginning when it kind of started. And I actually so I used to work in the airline industry, and when COVID hit, man, that took a real hit. And so my company laid off basically half of their workforce because the airlines were shut down and all of this crazy stuff. So I got let go along with like half of those people. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this really sucks.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to go crazy. I just want to like take some time and sort of delve into like things that I'm interested in and trying stuff, to do stuff like that. So I had this idea for a while of like starting a horror podcast, and at first it was going to be YouTube maybe, but then I was like, okay, no, that's way too complicated for me. So I'm like, all right, I just need a microphone and a computer. All right, I'll do that. So yeah. And I started doing the Horror Files, and it was literally from LA, like from my kitchen table, because I had no room anywhere else to do it. And it was, it's, I think when you start a podcast, you're just kind of like, feel like you're kind of talking into the ether and not sure if anybody's listening or anything like that. But I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to do it like people are listening, even if they're not. So I've just kind of tried to keep that formula ever since.
That's a skill. That's a muscle that people don't necessarily exercise, right? Like it's
Yeah.
hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's interesting. I didn't know you had started after, during the pandemic. That's interesting. My
I
co-host
did.
Violet.
Yeah.
Spooky cat Violet. That's her name. I started in 2013 with another show. It was like a multi fandom kind of show, and it was like 7 dudes, and each of us had a different specialty, and it kind of just got to the point where it was just really, really long episodes, and like some 3 hours long, and I was this is too much, and all I wanted to talk about was horror. So that changed, and I thought, we're all getting sent home, we're all working from home, everybody's going to be listening to podcasts. What I failed to realize was that people that listen to podcasts are like commuting.
Right.
So the numbers actually never went up from that. They tanked for us, but I mean, I'm not saying we had massive numbers anyway, but I thought, this, surely this is going to be a positive impact. It wasn't. It was easier to do content because I was home more. But
yeah. Well, for sure. I mean, when you don't I was out of work for a little bit doing that, so I had the time to do it. So it's a lot different. When that when you have a full-time job and are trying to do it as well. I got that job back, by the way. So
good.
I got rehired.
That's good.
So I literally had like a 3 months vacation paid and to do that, because they hired me back and my original salary, like my seniority and everything, was restored. So I was like, all right, so you guys just paid me to take a 3-month vacation. All right.
You can't get mad at that. That's a great opportunity. I mean, and you picked up these other skills along the way while you were in your downtime.
Exactly. I mean, I never used, I was unfamiliar with any of like the software needed. I use Audacity, but I was just kind of like asking people who I knew had some experience with it. And I'm like, what do you recommend, for mics, for software, all that kind of stuff. And, just tried to like kind of keep it simple. So it's, I didn't like go crazy with anything, and so that I could turn episodes around fairly quickly. And
that's the drag of podcasting, is the editing part. It just takes so long.
Yeah, it does.
And my problem is like, I'll hold on to an episode for so long. I'm like, man, I hope nobody said anything really dumb. And I'll just listen back through the whole thing and be like, oh, why don't I just edit this right after we record? Like, it's so much.
So one of the things that got pointed out to me, I mean, this was a while back, that I said, was it IMBD instead of IMDb?
Yeah.
And I've just kept it ever since. It's like a thing now where it's just like, because I've said it so many times, I'm like, it's just going to be like my thing where I'm just going to say it wrong.
I mean, you made it your thing. It's cool. I was shocked early on, talking about speaking into the ether and just, I mean, you can get your download numbers and stuff like that, but that doesn't, it doesn't, I don't know that it feels like, I mean, it would feel great if I just woke up and it's like 1,000 downloads, yesterday, sure. But also I'm kind of like, is that 1,000 people really listening, or just like a bot downloading, or what's really going on? But
yeah,
the first time I said something goofy on the show and someone drew it and then sent a picture of I said something about Hacksaw Jim Duggan having a 2x4 and fighting zombies with it. That was the perfect anti-zombie weapon, because he had reach, and the weapon, I mean, it'll break eventually, but it's kind of light, and it's really, you don't have to get bullets or gas for it. So it's pretty good. He drew a picture of zombie Hacksaw with his big 2x4. That made me feel good. That hasn't happened in a long time, but still. Okay, so Horror Files has been going since COVID. So
yeah, 2020
years. I don't even know at this point.
I know.
Now the episode I was listening to was a top 10, so it is a longer episode, but
it is.
you do kind of different formats. You don't always do the same thing, right? You don't always do just a retrospective of.
I don't. I've I kind of started out doing, the usual format like follows a pretty basic formula that I always use, but um I've kind of try and mix up the movies that I do. So like I'll do, a horror files faves where it's like kind of a special episode where I just kind of, you know, take on a subgenre of horror and like talk about my favorites in it. Um and but then I'm also have a video nasty series that I've been running through the podcast for I think probably around the last year. And so that's going to take me a while, but because there's a lot of them. But I wanted to start doing that because I wanted to do, some more obscure stuff that people maybe don't check out, some more, but then also intersperse that with modern horror, like more recent stuff, that kind of thing. So I try and give some variety, I guess.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, and what people may not even think about is like if you're hosting these shows and you're generating content, you have to watch this stuff. So if it's just like all I'm going to cover is straight to video slasher movies from the red box, that's going to get dull like real quick. So it's good to have variety, I think.
Right. Yeah. The last episode, the vampire one, that took a while because it's such a huge like subgenre of horror, and there's so many good vampire movies, and it was like I had to really like make some tough decisions and watch back a lot of films that I hadn't seen in a while, and I do research, and so that one definitely took a while to do.
Yeah, no, I mean you can tell when you listen to it. It's very well put together, and you do the audio clip thing too.
Yes,
I did that for a while. I can't. It's too much. My little brain just can't handle it. It's like, oh.
Well, it's been like kind of a process. When I started out, I mean, I don't think I had audio clips, so it's been like a little bit of like adding here and there. It's tougher with some films, especially when I cover like foreign horror, because it's you have to read subtitles and stuff, so it's a lot more difficult with ones like that. But I try and like kind of put in so that there are like kind of natural breaks in between me talking, because I'm like, you don't want to hear me talk like the whole entire time, do you?
You have to. Well, I mean, you have an entertaining, you have a good voice, and and you're not boring to listen to. If
good.
Some people for 2 hours talking about vampire movies, it would be a struggle, right? Like,
right.
Not everybody is Stephen Thrower or what's that dude from James, the actor studio guy, James Lipton.
Oh,
or
James
something.
Lipton.
Like not everybody can just sit there and drone on about movies and it's like interesting.
Right.
Not everybody's Kevin Smith or Eli Roth or Quentin Tarantino. Now listening to Quentin Tarantino debate film with Eli Roth can give you an epilepsy.
I can only imagine.
It's too much energy, and those dudes love the movies too much. So entertaining, but split them up. Okay, so let's also talk about you do write articles for the Macabre. I hope I'm saying that right. Macabre. I've always heard it said Macabre. I used to say Macabre. And how do y'all say it?
Macabre Daily.
Macabre Daily. Okay.
Yeah. But some people, say Macabre, I think mean, tomato,
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it's. Oh, there's an article about Glenn Danzig's Death Rider in the House of Vampires. Is that movie out?
So I think it's going to Sundance or
God.
Something like that, or Cannes. I think it's Cannes.
Did you watch the other one, right? The Veronica?
Yeah.
We're on a big side track here, but oh gosh. Here's our buddy Jason. Jason Rudy
Corn on
from
Macabre.
the Franco Observer podcast. Give a shout out to him. If you like Jess Franco, everybody go listen to Jason's podcast. He's got new movies out too, Blu-rays. He's also a filmmaker. Hi, Jason. Corn on Macabre.
That's good.
Thank you for commenting, Jason. Yeah, Veronica. That was interesting.
Yes.
That's it. That's all
That's
I want to say. So what do you when you're getting your podcast ready? I mean, obviously when I podcast, very little prep work goes into this. I go from feeding the kids to like shooting upstairs for my show. But when you do this, I mean, you do it like an exhaustive amount of research, especially for the faves, right?
I do. I try. I think it goes back to my kind of the thought that I try and keep in my head is that, I don't know if anybody's listening, but if somebody's listening, I want to make it good for them and worthwhile that they listened. So I do try and, put a lot of work and effort into it as much as I can. I do research a lot of like the production of the film as much as I can. If I can find interviews, sometimes I'll put those in, so yeah, I mean, I do try and do a lot of work for it so that when I go into record, I'm like prepared and I feel like, all right, now we can just have fun. So
yeah, once you do the leg, it's like we were talking about panels before hold on, we got another comment here. It's Night of the Nerdy Laser podcast. I'm here, but I like to stalk Corey in the background. You could have capitalized the C in my name, man. Thanks, Richard. He's actually also my business partner for FrankenCon. So,
oh, nice.
One of my business partners. So we are 20 something days from Bride of FrankenCon, which is going to be bananas.
Nice.
So we're all like, I don't have hair, but I would pull it out if I had any. Yeah, we were talking about before we started though, doing panels. You're about to go to Crypticon.
Yes.
You were telling me about the panels you're doing, 4 different panels. I find that researching for that, I mean, it's just like researching for the podcast too, right? You have to know what you're going to talk about before you get up there. It's very difficult to freestyle a panel. It's very difficult.
That's true. I mean, I'm like trying to think of it in terms of like, I don't want to like make myself crazy trying to prep too much.
Yeah.
And not leave anything to like kind of spontaneity a little bit, because you kind of don't know what questions people are also going to throw at you. Yeah. So, there's always that kind of question mark, factor that goes into it. So it's just like you can prepare as well as you think, and then just hope for the best, I guess.
25 days till Bride of FrankenCon. Thanks, Richard. I was at 28 I was okay, but 25 I'm really losing it. And another one, Brandon Posey, that's okay, Corey is way crazy. Why am I crazy? All right, whatever. Hey man, they like to come in and harass me during the show. It's fun. It's a gimmick. I tried to do, I mean, this show's like more conversational, so I do very little prep work, and usually like if it's a filmmaker, I'll watch their movie. If it's an author, I'm actually an incredibly slow reader, so there's no way I'm going to get their book read unless it's like 6 months in advance. And even then it's a possibility that I won't. But for this show, it's usually just conversational. Like, I've been keeping up with your social media for a while. I actually had a guest on that I had a bone to pick with him because he won your giveaway and then was on my show immediedely after. Chris Kelly. Yeah. I immediately had him on the show after. I was like, what's up, dude? I was going to win that. And he's like, He's a good guy though. He's the only other podcaster I think I've had on, except a friend named Jeff. Hi Jeff, if you're watching. But our episode went like 2 hours. I was like, oh my God. We started like an hour late and then talked for like 2 hours. I was like, I'll have to have him back on again, but man, we just could not shut up about stuff. So that's the podcaster curse.
Exactly.
What is it? Podcasters, vegans, and CrossFitters. None of them can shut up about what they do. Just constantly talking about it. Well, are you ready for some questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and these are kind of these kind of start off like one of the questions I would have asked you anyways. What got you into horror in the first place?
Okay.
What made you want to podcast about it? And like I don't know when you got into it. We all got into it at different ages, but what got you started?
I mean, I kind of got into horror a little bit late. My parents were like, my mom loved like kind of art house indie films growing up, and then my dad loved action movies. Yeah. So I watched both of them, but they never really, either of them were like into horror films at all. So I watched horror films like through my friends and going to sleepovers and at their houses and stuff like that. So that was kind of how I really got introduced to it. But I do love action films. I'll say that right now. Like that's my second favorite genre next to horror is action films. I love it. Yeah, I kind of, started, so I didn't always was super into it. Like as a kid, it was more like when I started to get, I think like getting into college, then I started kind of, getting more into horror films and stuff and seeing sort of the variety that was really out there. Yeah, there's a lot. I'm intrinsically suspicious of people who say they don't like horror, because I feel like horror is, it's sort of, it's for everybody, because it speaks to kind of our basest, most like raw part of being a human, which is fear. Yeah. And I feel like people who don't watch horror, maybe there's a part that maybe is scared to confront those kinds of fears, because there are a lot of fears that we have in our own lives and in our own, situations a lot of the time. And it can be hard to kind of, put that in front of ourselves sometimes. So yeah, I love horror. I love what it speaks to in people, what it can make you feel, how it can make you laugh, how it can just absolutely make you pee your pants scare. Yeah, there's I think it's probably the genre of film that I think has the widest range and what it can do. It's so diverse and can speak to so many different things.
And I think it has like the most rabid fan base.
Absolutely.
Right? There's not like rom-com conventions.
Right, exactly.
Like we go to horror conventions. They're okay. Oh, side note, action movies. Okay. I love action movies too. What's your favorite?
Oh my gosh. I have a lot. There's a lot I enjoy. I love 80s action films. I love the Predator films.
That's my number one. The first Predator. Yeah. I think it's awesome.
Those are great. The original Die Hard, of course. I love that one. I mean, pretty much anything. But yeah, it's funny because probably the bottom of my list are rom-coms. I do not like watching them. I don't get them. There are some that are fine, that are good, that are, enjoyable, but it's not one of my favorites by any means.
I'm with you on that. I mean, I think there's a good, and for kind of going back to the thing where people that don't like horror, I think it's, it's sort of like saying, well, all rap music is bad or all country music is bad. Like, have you dug deep enough in that crate of records to really know that it's all shit? Like, I doubt it, So maybe they just haven't found their thing. They watch, you know, they watched something, they watched Basket Case and were just terrified of Belial, and life never got back to normal. But did they watch Silence of the Lambs? Did they watch,
Sure.
you know,
Maybe you're just watching the wrong movies.
exactly. You don't have a curator like Dana or myself to help you out. So for just $1 a day, you can call in. Here's another awful segue. Dana, do you like t-shirts?
Yes, very much.
Yes. Do you like horror movies?
Absolutely.
So would you like horror movies on t-shirts?
Of course.
Boom. Then check out fright-rags.com. That's our sponsor. Use code SpookyDudes10 at checkout for 10% off your order, even if it's on clearance. Joe Bob Briggs stuff, action figures, socks, lounge pants. Go fright-rags.com. Use code SpookyDudes10. That's it.
I love Fright Rags.
I love them too. Big fan. First horror movie you can remember watching?
Oh, well, I'm not sure which came first, because there's two that come to mind when somebody asks me that. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like a chicken or the egg kind of thing. So one is The Gate from 1987.
Okay. Nice.
That one, I remember those little demons scared the crap out of me. And then, which I saw at a friend's house, of course. And then the other, also at a friend's house, at a sleepover, was the original Pet Sematary.
Oh, yeah.
And I vividly remember the character of Victor, who, you know, gets in that accident at the beginning of the film, and like the rest of it has like half of his brains hanging out of his head. That was like terrified me. Yeah.
That movie, Pet Sematary, I mean, as a kid, I was like, okay, that's kind of scary, but man, like it, after I had kids, like completely changed, you know, like watching the movie, it ratcheted that whole thing up to the next level. And I think it's really great now. Like, it's very scary, but
it is. I went back and I was like, for a while I wouldn't watch it because it scared me so much as a kid. And then I was like, all right, I'm fine. I'm going to go back and watch it again. And yeah, it's really, it's so heartbreaking. I think like I missed, of course, when you're just a little kid, you miss the emotions that are happening in it sometimes. And, going back and seeing it again, and I'm just like, oh, it just like gutted me, because it's just it's a very emotional horror film as well.
It is. Yeah. I mean, that's where it got me. And I didn't, and Brian Bremer, if you're out there watching, I've told you this story. Okay. So Brian Bremer played Bunt in Pumpkinhead.
Oh yeah.
And he's a good friend of the convention, and a good dude. Like, he's great. We had him year 1. We're bringing him back year 2. But I told him, I was like, man, the first time I watched Pumpkinhead, I was blown away by the creature. Like, Stan Winston's creature is amazing. But the movie, I was kind of like, it was like I was talking to somebody about how I feel about fish sticks and hash browns. Those are vehicles to get ketchup into my mouth. Right. And just to be socially acceptable. I don't want a spoonful of ketchup. That seems gross. But when it's on a fish stick or a hash brown, that's the way I eat those. So it was a vehicle to get Pumpkinhead into my brain because the creature was so cool. But like, after having a child, watching, this story where this father's so torn up that his kid has been accidentally killed in this motorcycle accident, changed the context of that film completely. And I began to think, man, this is actually a really kick-ass movie. It's just weird, like coming back to things that you didn't like.
Oh, totally.
Can you think of an example of something that the first time you watched it, you were just like, this sucks, and then you just, I don't know, you cooled off and came back and thought it was great?
That's a really good question.
I'm gonna write it down, because you're the first person I've thought to ask it to. So we're gonna
that's a great question. Because I'm usually a person that when I'm watching a film, my opinion's forming pretty quickly. I'm usually like, all right, I jive with this. It's I like what they're doing, that kind of thing. I think the only ones that are kind of, I don't know if I necessarily don't like them, but they kind of require, like, I'm like, I feel like maybe I need to watch that again because can't stop thinking about it. And maybe not necessarily in like a super positive way, but I'm just kind of like, I'm trying to figure this out, like why they did what they did, or why the director went this way, or why, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it can go the other way too.
Yeah.
I Know What You Did Last Summer. I went back and watched that like a year or two ago, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I hate this.
Right.
But as a teenager, I thought this is terrifying, and that hook and that, fisherman slicker or whatever that's called.
Yeah.
Soundtrack's still the bomb though.
Oh yeah. I think I was like that a bit with Midsummer.
Okay.
Midsummer is one that I think at first I was kind of like, I don't know. I was kind of like, how do I feel at the end of this? And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it some time before I revisit it. And which I did. I didn't watch it for like, probably at least like 2 years after I'd seen it originally. And a lot of people, I mean, Midsummer's, not a lot of people's cup of tea, and that's fine. There's things about it that work for me and things that don't, but I think I appreciated it more, and maybe what it was trying to do the next time I watched it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I could see that. I mean, I think Ari Aster's movies, like, so far, I haven't seen the new one. I heard it's not a horror movie though, the Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, I still have not
movie.
seen that one either, but yeah.
His stuff's kind of an acquired taste. I don't think it's easy to, it's not, I don't have a good analogy, but it's not something just like everybody's like, oh yeah, I like chocolate,
right.
It's not chocolate. It's maybe like dark chocolate with
it's not ketchup on your, fish sticks.
Ketchup on your fish sticks. There you go. All right, this one's easier, okay? Or it may not be. I don't know. People struggle with this one too. Favorite subgenre?
Oh, I think giallo is mine.
That's a good one.
I love those crazy, wacky Italians, and those black glove killers. There's just something about it. It's the movies for the most part are, let's be honest here, terrible. I mean, or at least the writing of them is terrible. A lot of them are bad.
It's not the best. I mean, it's not the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Universally, it's not the best.
But that's the thing, is like, that's my favorite. And I love giallo films, even though I can say, all right, if you compared it with this, it's not great, but I love it because it is so like ridiculous and campy and like technicolory violent, and it has style to it. It has this kind of audacity, I think, a little bit with what they did, that I enjoy very much. So I'd say probably that, and then maybe zombies next. So I love the zombie, anything Romero, Fulci, Jackson's Dead Alive, of course, stuff like that. I just rewatched The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue not that long ago, and I forgot how enjoyable and fun that one was. So yeah, I love a good zombie film.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite giallo?
I'd have to say Deep Red, probably.
Okay, that's a good one.
I really, really like that, but it's tough because there's a lot of them that I do like. I love the New York Ripper. I love
that one's brutal.
Yeah, it is. Tenebrae, I love. Blood and Black Lace, Bava. Yeah, there's a lot of really great ones, but there's a lot of ones that aren't so great, but they're fun.
I'm a bird with the crystal plumage guy.
That's a fantastic one too. I love that.
It's
The
one of
set
the
pieces on that are amazing.
they are, and it when I was watching a bunch of these for a panel I did with a friend at that con I was telling you about, and we went through as much giallo as we could possibly watch, and I was like, this is one of the few of these films where like the main characters don't have a million character flaws that I just sort of hate. Like I actually want them to
Right.
survive, and can't say that about all of them. So
Yeah.
okay, the other side of that coin, least favorite subgenre.
Hmm. That's a good question. I don't know if this is like a subgenre per se. I mean, I guess like the more extreme horror niche, like Lucifer Valentine or August Underground, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I know there are some people that kind of like pride themselves on being able to watch, that those kind of horror films.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's okay. That's, it's just, it's not, my particular cup of tea personally, but hey, everyone's different.
I have watched the August Underground movies, and I met Fred Vogel.
Yeah.
And he was cool. I mean, he was cool to talk to and stuff. Never seen a Lucifer Valentine movie yet, though.
Yeah.
I did go on this sort of how far can I get into the
Right.
what is it, the disturbing iceberg or whatever. I was like, I'm probably on like level 2 of 8 or whatever, but I watched a Serbian film that was unpleasant.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But then there's like Cannibal Holocaust, which people really freak out about. And I get it. Look, it's not cool to kill animals in movies at all, but this was made a long time ago. And also I'm pretty sure if everything I heard was correct, the animals that were killed were fed to the villagers and stuff where they were filming this in the, jungle. I don't even remember what continent it was on, but anyway, the jungle. But anyway, yeah. So that one I will give that one a pass. But yeah, some of that stuff.
But I do follow like YouTubers and podcasters who do like that's their bread and butter is watching stuff like that. So,
like
but I don't know.
Spooky Rice and
there's John Lyons, I think is another one. But and he's really funny. But it's kind of more like watching from a distance, like not actually watching them kind of thing. I'm just sort of like, yeah.
You just watch it and tell me about it so I don't have to, but I get to know what happened. Right. There's no FOMO.
Right. I can close my eyes at night.
Yeah. You gotta be careful. I mean, to some degree, you gotta be careful what you put up here because, it may not.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are certain things that are, for me personally, are places or I guess things that I'm like, I think everybody kind of has like a limit. There's something in them that they're just like, nope, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
For me, it's kids. Now I'm not talking about like, obviously Pet Sematary and stuff. I mean, not like on that level.
Right.
But, when it goes like more extreme or with, honestly, like, well, animals as well is a tough one,
Yeah.
But with Cannibal Holocaust, I realized that this was before they put those protections in place for films.
Yeah.
It's still so tough for me to like, watch even a regular movie. And I think like an Animals in Danger, like Prey, which was
man.
that,
it's so good.
It was so good. And I'm just like, nothing better happened to that dog or I'm going to flip this tape, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I realize that there is an element in, horror films of sexual assault. And it all depends on how they do it, how it's approached and stuff like that. But
Right.
honestly, just like brutalization of women just for brutalization's sake is tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me.
Well, I mean, there's, exploitation
Sure.
is a thing for sure, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
a lot of these films, it was like whoever was making it was like, how far can I push the envelope of taste to where I'll still make a return, to where we'll still make our money back, but
Yeah.
I,
But I love like, a good revenge film. You have like Miss 45 and, all these kinds of, that's sort of, good for you, honey, kind of
yeah.
genre where, they get their comeuppance. I mean,
I
hey,
mean, that's the point, right? Like
yeah,
it's sort of like, how can you watch Revenge or I Spit on Your Grave or Miss 45, something like that?
yeah,
And I don't I'm not going to say nobody wants to see that, because I guarantee you there are some people who do want to see it, but most of us do not want to see that. But then when it's like time for the tables to turn, there's just something
right.
really, it's a gut punch, it's very
Yeah,
effective, and
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
just depends on how they do it. All
Yes.
right. We're gonna go into sunnier pastures here. When I say VHS cover from the video store, the first one that pops in your head?
Dead Alive. That
The
has
good
to
one with the
be.
mouth and the,
Yes.
yeah.
It's just so iconic. And I do remember, because I am from the age of VHS and going into Blockbuster and, looking at the movies and stuff like that, I wasn't allowed to rent like when I was younger. And Dead Alive was always like that kind of like, oh my gosh, it just seems so like, I don't know, it was cool and scary and kind of like, oh man, that's got to be like the scariest thing ever.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when I was a kid. And finally, when I watched it, I just was like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm just like, so crazy, comically gory and just wild. Yeah, that was one that I was like, I remember that cover and, curious about the film. And when I finally watched it, it was actually like, yes, it wasn't a letdown. It was just like resonated. I loved it so much.
It's a great movie. It has one of the most disgusting scenes. Like I still have trouble watching it. Uh Night of the Nerdy Laser, Richard, that posted in here earlier for his show. He has a show called Trash Talk where they just pick a movie and they don't talk trash about it, but they're talking about trashy movies, right? And
Right.
so one day they did Dead Alive, and he
Mm.
got this. It says a damn fine custard on this can, and it's got the goopy, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, when they do the ear thing, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to look away, right? That's my limit. When you eat your own ear out of some custard, I can't handle it. I remember distinctly having a conversation with some guys in middle school or high school, and it was right after I had watched Evil Dead. So the first
Mhm.
Evil Dead, because I actually grew up in Morristown, which is where they filmed it.
Oh yeah.
And because I think it was filmed partly in Morristown, and then there were some interior shots done in Michigan, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but I watched the movie and I was like blown away. I was like, the ankle thing with the pencil, and I go, dad, the whole thing was great.
Yeah.
And I was talking about it, and these kids at school were like, man, Evil Dead's nothing. You got to see Dead Alive. And I'm like, really? Is it that like that? They're like, it's so much worse. There's so much more blood. And then I watched it and I was like, this is a comedy. What are you, when I get it, there's the whole Evil Dead's a comedy thing, but the first one don't feel like a comedy to me. It's very, very straightforward. So those guys were full of crap, but it is a great movie. I love both those movies.
That John Denver's full of shit, man.
Full of shit. I can't even remember who it was I was talking to. All right. What's your favorite type of physical media?
Oh. I mean, I love me a good 4K, Ultra HD, but then
Oh, fancy.
I also like I've been enjoying and trying to collect more horror vinyl.
Okay.
You know, any kind of like soundtracks for horror films, like from particularly like the 70s and 80s. Um, you know, Goblin, Suspiria, and stuff like that. I just, yeah, I've been trying to do more of those as well. Now that I have like, well, a record player that I can play them on. So,
What's your budget for waxwork records per month?
God,
They're
it's
not
not
they're not
enough.
cheap. They're not cheap.
It's not enough.
It's
Yeah.
not I can't, I'm not getting into it. I mean, I like music, I like movies. I had to draw a line in the sand. I was like, one record is approximately the width of 2.5 Blu-ray cases or something like that. You know, I can fit more Blu-rays over there. They have music on them.
Yeah.
Jason gave us another comment. I think this was when we were talking about the VHS
Ah,
covers. Frankenhooker had a cool case, and the
that's a
other
great one. Yeah.
talking cases for horror films.
Yeah.
That's Jason from Desperate Visions Productions. Jason, Patty Mullen is going to be at FrankenCon, by the way.
Yes.
She came to us. She said, "How can you have a FrankenCon without a Frankenhooker?" I'm not kidding. Like this is not a humble brag thing. She literally said that on Facebook in
Awesome.
public, and we were like,
Oh,
"Is that really her?" And we went to the thing, and it's like, "It's really her." And Richard started talking. She's like, "Yeah, I'll come out." Like,
I
okay,
love her. I love that movie is so amazing. I love it.
it's fun. It's a
It
fun
is a
movie.
lot of fun.
I
I
found
love
out.
introducing people to it because like there was you know, like a fellow horror fan who had not seen it and was kind of putting it off, and I'm like, no, 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 you have to watch it, I have to watch it. And he was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Don't skip out on any of the Hen and Lauder stuff.
Yeah, no, no, no.
No,
That's
watch
all
watch.
fun.
I showed my wife. Well, we watched Basket Case on Joe Bob, of course, and then we
Yes.
watched Brain Damage, and she
Mm,
loved Brain Damage. She thought it was
I
like
love that
really
one.
good.
Yeah.
It's a good drug movie. Like,
Yeah.
if nothing else, if you ignore the gore and the craziness, like that's a great "don't do drugs, kids" kind of
Yeah, man.
story.
For sure.
So, and then we watched Frankenhooker, and you know, the exploding hooker scene was wonderful, and
Oh
I mean,
my
it's just a
gosh, I
fun
love
movie.
that. Yeah.
I'm going to skip the next question because we already know that you collect and watch movies on physical media.
Yes.
Okay, here's the controversial section of our interview.
Oh, okay.
So
Yes.
prepare.
Okay.
Okay. No, it's not that big a deal. The big thing on social media lately has been AI generated art and it's not just
Mm,
pictures anymore, right? There's AI generated video.
right.
There's the pictures, of course, with the funky fingers and the 15 fingers come out the hand. But AI is writing stuff too. So how do you feel about the impact this is going to have on our community in horror?
It's tough. It really is because, you know, I think there's like everybody's always like kind of made a case for, I think in at least the US has passed of, well, you know, why can't we put a man into space? Why can't we do these things that are like, you know, maybe we shouldn't do, or maybe, you know, it's like, but can we do them kind of thing. Um, it's really tough because I am a writer. Um, and I know lots of other writers who put a lot of, you know, hard work into the words that they put down. I know a lot of people who are in the VFX industry, and this is a legitimate scare for them
Yeah.
because, you know, it's like, are our jobs going to be obsolete, you know, down the line? Is, you know, uh, my working as a writer, is that going to be obsolete down the line? It's a really difficult kind of question to answer. I think of like, it sounds really weird, but like I remember when people were like freaked out when I think it was like the scientific calculator came out because they thought kids weren't going to be able to like understand and do math anymore. And it was on this like 80s documentary or something like that. And like, but they realized that, okay, it was a tool that helped kids and adults save time making these kind of complex calculations. So,
Yeah.
but they still needed to understand the principles behind them. And,
Right.
why am I pressing the buttons that I am pressing? And so I guess with AI, what are we understanding behind it? I guess is my question. We're using the words and the images of other people have kind of worked hard to create and deserve credit for. And I guess I'm wondering where the more deeper understanding of that and the things behind that kind of is.
Yeah.
I
mean, I think you said the magic thing, right? People were scared of a new tool. AI it's another tool. It's all it is. But like any other tool, it can be used for good, or it can be used for bad, or it can be used for profit when you don't deserve it. I mean,
Right.
it is possible. I was talking to Donald Farmer about it, and Donald has made a bunch of. He's probably directed like 40 something movies. It's most of it shot on video. He lives in Tennessee. Nice guy. But I asked him the same question, and he brought up. He said, if you're just looking to do like a quick poster for your movie and just to announce it on Kickstarter or a teaser kind of thing, that's cool. But when you release your movie, your real poster needs to be a painting.
Mm.
Right? Like he was adamant about it. It needs to be a painting, or it needs to be this or this or this. None of this AI generated stuff. And I guess the thing I find encouraging is the stuff that people still pay a lot of money for, those paintings, they're still
Right.
done with a brush and like a, metal scrapey thing. And they're still done by human hands. Right.
Right.
There's always going to be, something you just don't get, something that's slightly soulless when you got this perfect image generated by a machine. So that's the reason I'm less fearful about it now. I was starting to be like, oh God, every convention's gonna be nothing but AI generated posters. And I was like, that's probably not gonna happen. I mean, there's gonna be some of it, but
yeah, I think that as long as there are people who, do fight for artistic merit and, for writers and for effects artists and for, painters and, any kind of artistic endeavor. There will always be that, there will always be authentic work being created. I don't see AI taking over everything. I think people will, I don't see people like letting that in so widely that it just, eradicates, hundreds and hundreds of years of artistic, creativity that is the human race and what they're capable of. So I think that'll always continue. And I'm hopeful that it will.
Well stated.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. 2 more controversial questions, then we can get back to the fluffy stuff. All right. This one may be the worst of the bunch. Okay. Cancel culture. I got to bring it up every episode until I get tired of it.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on canceling a movie because of the behavior of those who made it? So, like Weinstein, you mentioned him on the Vampire Show. You're talking about the addiction.
Yes. That was a Miramax. Yeah. I
mean, there's so many movies out there that say Miramax on them, right? Like Scream, right?
Yeah.
Scream is Miramax.
Yeah, Scream was. Yeah, I mean, there was a huge amount of very excellent films that were, built on the back of this
scumbag.
So yeah, I mean, it's I guess I'm not as worried about AI as that.
Right. But different kind of worry. Yes.
Exactly. It's so tough. I think that things you know, part of me kind of wonders about, when we cancel a film or we boycott a film, how effective the act ultimately is. Are we also punishing the other people who worked hard on that film by not seeing it, who had nothing to do with, whoever's crappy behavior?
Yeah.
But there's also that part, well, if if this person or what have you are actually in fact doing those things, and that can be proven, um how can we not hold them accountable for those actions as well in some part? um it's really tough because I think these kinds of behaviors have long been groomed and enabled in Hollywood. I mean, this goes back to like the golden age of Hollywood, and they were like, sleeping with starlets and, giving Judy Garland, uppers and downers and all this kind of stuff. And um, I think that it's a really intensely personal issue for people, and it depends on kind of what your moral compass is. There's been some actors in the past that I've not seen their films, or directors in the past I've not seen their film, just because I have issues with them as individuals. And sometimes it's just because I think they're crappy actors. But, I think that I don't know if this is an issue that will ever be eradicated, because because power breeds corruption.
Sure.
No matter how maybe good your intentions are when you start, having that kind of unchecked power, whether it's politics, whether it is Hollywood, is not good for anybody. And, I don't think that necessarily boycotting a film is going to help eradicate that issue. People honestly just get better at hiding their shitty behavior when they know society thinks it's shitty.
Yeah.
And some just don't care. So I guess at least my thoughts on it is all we can do as individuals is kind of just make our own personal decision in line with our own moral code and of ethics and morality. And I can't bully you into canceling somebody if you don't think they should be. And honestly, I don't care to shove my opinions into other people's faces about whether you should or shouldn't. That's not for me to make that decision for you. It's up to you. And, I think that people who also try and like fade, like, no, you have to do that, that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't have to do anything. You can make the decisions you want to make, and that's fine. And, that's what you believe, and I can make my own. Not everybody's going to come around to your side. So,
right. Like, if you don't align with my belief system, you're bad because blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sort of agreed on that. So, all right. Last one that is mildly, I don't know how controversial it is. What are your thoughts on bootlegging out of print titles?
I'm for it. I mean, honestly, listen, but before anybody kind of comes at me before, like, taking money away from the gluttonous pig that is Hollywood, I am for preserving art. Okay.
Right.
So, and what you consider art and what I consider art, may be different, but the horror genre wouldn't be what it is today if we didn't have people bootlegging VHS tapes in the 80s and the 90s, Yeah. And I do enjoy collecting legit physical media, but it's also kind of ridiculous as to, how expensive some of them are priced at. And sometimes I feel like they kind of like dangle carrots, like just to because they know that, people want them. And I'm not for, Yeah, I really don't care if Hollywood makes, any more money. They've made enough. And again, I think that the horror genre, we've lost a lot of, um, really great films because of things like the video nasties. And we've lost a lot of them because of, censorship and stuff like that. And if we didn't have people who were, bootlegging them and keeping them alive, then we wouldn't have them today.
See, they're great. They're doing a great service. Now, keep in mind out there, folks, we're not talking about burning a copy of I don't know, Bram Stoker's Dracula
No.
and selling it at the flea market. We're talking about Fright Night 2. We're talking about someone miraculously found a print of London After Midnight and put it on a DVD, stuff like that.
Not going into a movie theater with your, camera.
Sleepaway Camp 2.
Yeah.
That is not currently in print in the United States. So
there you go.
$80 for, I don't expect anybody to pay $80 for a DVD of that.
Yeah. Near Dark. Hello. Come on.
Is it out of print, Near Dark?
Well, I think Criterion was supposed to release something. I don't know if anything ever happened with that, but they were talking about it. But, copies of the old, like the initial, like Blu-rays and stuff like that and DVD, they're ridiculously priced. I
had an Anchor Bay DVD, like collector's edition of it. I'm pretty sure I gave it away. Like, well, dang it. I could have sent my kids to college. All right. Hey, YouTube, let us know in the comments below what you think of bootlegging. All right. Here we go. Favorite costume, mask, or prop from a horror film?
Ooh. I mean, well, the Michael Myers mask is very iconic, but I weirdly kind of feel like the 3 like silver shamrock masks are really so underrated. I think in that they're really good. I guess for me, this may be kind of weird. The owl mask from Stage Fright is one of my favorites.
It's crazy. It's huge.
I love that. Yeah, it's huge. It's like a freaking mascot, head. I love that movie, by the way. That's one of my favorites. And probably McCready's flamethrower from The Thing.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to have that.
You could probably build one of those.
Oh, I'm sure.
There you go.
Totally.
Then you can make a podcast about the building process. I put 1,000 hours into this. Let me compress it down to a 60-minute podcast. All right. All right. Name 3 films that every horror fan should see.
Oh, wow. Well, the first one that actually comes to mind is actually Bava's A Bay of Blood. Mm-hmm. I think that film is literally the tipping point as to when Giallo gave way to what would become the slasher genre today. And in fact, I think, was it Friday the 13th Part 2?
Yep.
Like takes a scene, like literally shot for shot from that.
The spear. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. I think that one. I'd also have to say Argento's Suspiria. It made me realize that horror could be beautiful and grotesque at the same time. Yeah. And then I'm gonna have to say my favorite, which is John Carpenter's The Thing. It just ticks all the boxes for me: story, direction, acting, tension, effects, score.
I was hoping you were going to say the score, because the music in that movie
it's fantastic. Yeah. And I guess if I had to like do an honorable mention, I'd say the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think that's another one that everyone should watch.
It's a masterpiece. It's basically a perfect film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. Good list. All right. Now you got to come up with another list. 2 movies to watch during the Halloween season. So what gets you in the spooky season mood?
Well, actually, there's 2, and they kind of like are opposite sides of the spectrum.
Okay.
for like a Halloween film. So one, I don't know if a lot of people know about, is Hack-O-Lantern.
Oh yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous and fun. You have, Satanists, you have horny teens, you have hair metal band with like dry ice and lasers and stuff. And, that's just like a lot of fun to watch around Halloween. I always watch that. And then I try and also watch like a witch movie too.
Mhm.
Especially like like a period one, like either like The Witch or The Blood on Satan's Claw, or Witchfinder General with Vincent Price. Those always kind of put me in a Halloween mood. I used to live in New Hampshire, and every Halloween I used to go to Salem, Massachusetts every Halloween, and it was always so much fun. So those kind of period like witch films I associate with Halloween.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
great. I'm a big Blood on Satan's Claw fan. I love that movie a lot.
I will have to say too, I have a new one that I'm probably going to put into like my Halloween rotation, and that's the Deathstream that was on Shudder. The guy that goes into like a haunted house, a YouTuber,
Mhm.
and it was just it was pleasantly surprised by it. It was made for like, the budget was like nothing, and I think this husband and wife did it, and it was just I enjoyed it. It was like a really great modern take on kind of the haunted house movie,
Okay.
and it's just genuinely funny, scary, and kind of shows like what you can accomplish with an indie horror film. And yeah, that's a new one I'm adding to my yearly rotation.
I need to watch that. I've had several people say I need to check that one out. I still haven't.
It's a
I'm,
blast.
I'm gonna get around to it though. I just needed one more vote for it, and you just gave me that. Okay. All right. Last one. What advice would you give an up and coming creator in the someone who's, in your case, someone who's either thinking about starting a horror podcast or someone who's writing about horror movies? What
Right.
advice would you give to them?
Um, I guess if horror is your passion, then go for it and do it for yourself and do what you love first and foremost. Like I said, I started during the pandemic, and I had no idea if anybody was ever going to listen to my podcast, and I was just like, kind of felt like sometimes I was just talking bullshit into a microphone, and I'm like,
That's what
but
we do.
yeah. It's like, wow, people are listening to this. Okay. But people started listening, and I'm really truly humbled and grateful for all the support and love that I've received from people who have listened to it. And again, if horror is your passion, put your passion into it. Don't half-ass it, whole-ass it. That I've listened to horror podcasts. Exactly. I've listened to horror podcasts that I have just, you can tell there's just nothing there. It's just like there's no heart, there's no like life, and you don't have to make it complicated or cerebral, but there's some that I've listened to, I'm like, did you actually watch this film when you did this? It's like, but you don't have to make it crazy complicated, but put in the effort, put in the passion to it if you're going to do it, because audiences can smell bullshit. So
Yeah.
if you're going to do it, do it because you love doing it, and then people will follow. Passion about something is very contagious.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say every episode I've ever done has been just a banger.
Oh yeah,
And
me
that's
neither.
definitely times when I've just phoned it in, but yeah, I mean, what you're saying is completely true.
But you
Like,
keep doing it. That's the thing, is that it's everybody has like, I have pieces that I've written that I'm just like, that's not my best. I know it's not my best. I've had podcasts I've done where I'm like, I know that wasn't my best that day, but that's just like, okay, you don't stop and give up if you love doing it. You're just like, all right, that was today, on to the next one and make it better.
None of us are doing this for fame and fortune.
Exactly.
So I haven't found a fortune yet, and I'm definitely not famous. But yeah, I think that's the best thing. Like, do you, like, just, if you don't, you're going to mimic somebody at first for a little bit, right? You're going to go, well, I love this one podcast. I'm going to act like Kevin Smith. I'm going to talk with my hands, for a while. But then all of a sudden it's like, I'm just going to be me. And that's what makes your stuff special, right? It's just when you find your kind of groove and,
And I think, really listen to your gut. Don't be pressured by people to do something or to go like a certain way with your podcast or, that you were just not into. I think being authentic to yourself and what you love is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't say it any better myself. Dana, tell the audience where they can find you if they're not, because this is going to come out in audio too. So
okay.
The ticker.
You can find the Horror Files on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. And you can find me and my Instagram at DeadAliveDana.
Carlos. Hi, Carlos. Can't go wrong being yourself.
That's right.
I agree.
And you can find me writing retro reviews for macabredaily.com. And we have an amazing, amazing staff of people.
Yeah, it's an awesome site, guys. Go check it out. I for whatever reason, I tried putting your show in my pod catcher and it wouldn't find it. I can go straight to Spotify and listen to it, but it wouldn't pull it down from like an RSS feed. I was like, why is it doing that? Whatever. I got Spotify. It's okay. It's fine. I'll listen to it.
And maybe I go through Podbean to host like basically that. So I don't know. Maybe it's something with Podbean.
Oh.
Who knows?
I don't know. Anyway, Dana, it's been a pleasure to finally catch up with you and chat and stuff. This has been a really fun time. So we'll have to do it again in the future.
Yeah.
We'll have to come up with more questions because I can't just ask you the same ones again. How's your opinion changed on the bootlegging? Some of them we might revisit, like that one. But thank you again so much for doing this. And it was a lot of fun.
I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Everybody go check out Dana at the Horror Files on Spotify on my phone. You can do that. I don't know why I couldn't find another thing. And then macabredaily.com. Go check it out. And one other thing, say your prayers, take your vitamins, and stay spooky, my dudes.